After making some of the most gratuitously violent and profanity-fueled horror films in existence, Rob Zombie is cleaning things up by giving a family-friendly modern adaptation of the classic sitcom The Munsters. What is up, everybody, and welcome to my review of The Munsters. Now, this is a film that I had so much curiosity and so much faith in. I'm not somebody that likes most of Rob Zombie films. There's probably only two that I would give a real positive review for, and I tend to have the same problem with all of them. I think that he's a very talented director, but not a good writer, and every single one of his movies, the writing is primarily where the movie lets me down. But once I found out that he was going to be doing a modern adaptation of The Munsters, and he was actually going to stick with the tone and the rating of the original show, he was not going to be Rob Zombie in this thing and making it some rated R fucking cunt extravaganza like he always does with his films, I was really curious of what that was going to look like, and I actually thought this might be the one. This might be the movie where Rob Zombie gets rid of a lot of his real controversial elements in his writing and in his films and shows what he can really do at delivering a story that all ages can experience. First teaser trailer that we got that was basically just a recreation of the opening of the show, I thought looked great. I thought the production design, I thought that the design on the costumes of the characters and the way that it was shot, it had such a throwback classic appeal that you could really feel the love and the respect for the Munsters there. It got me really excited. And then we got the first trailer. And while I still maintain that that trailer looked and played much better in black and white, it did nothing but destroy my expectations and my hopes for this film because it was just absolutely atrocious. One of the worst trailers I have ever seen. Now I've seen the film, and unfortunately that trailer was a very good representation of what the overall film is.
Horror.
But really quick before we talk about The Munsters, if your family is also planning a move from Transylvania to Mockingbird Lane and you might have your finances in a pinch, be sure to check out the sponsor of today's video, Dave. Every single one of us has had financial issues and unexpected expenses come up. I can't tell you how many times over the past number of years where I finally felt like I was in a comfortable financial position. I finally felt like I was getting out of the red, and then suddenly something would go wrong with my truck, and now I'm out $700 to $1,000. And being a homeowner with 3 kids, there is no shortage of things that are constantly breaking, needing to be repaired or replaced completely. Well, everyday situations like these is where Dave can help. And best of all, there is an extra cash feature where you can get up to $500 in cash advances so you can fill up that gas tank before your next paycheck drops or buy that last minute birthday gift that you forgot about with no interest and no credit check needed. Download Dave today at dave.com/Cody. That's dave.com/Cody and sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. And thank you so much, Dave, for sponsoring today's video. Starting off with the positives for The Munsters, I thought that the production value and the costume design was very good in this. The way that the house looked especially, I was just charmed all to hell as Rob Zombie was posting to his Instagram account during the construction of the house. I think that you can really tell his love for the Munsters with the set design, with the production value, and with the design of the actual Munsters characters. And while again, I still maintain that the movie would have looked better and all of the things I'm praising right now would have looked even better in black and white, even in color, it looks really good. It's got a really nice kind of throwback and vibrant look to it. There's a lot of colors, there's a lot of purples and greens, and for some it might be too much, but for me it actually is kind of bringing like a fun vibe to this movie. And it's lit and shot in a really unique way. It kind of has a bit of that soap opera effect to where it doesn't completely look like a film. It doesn't have that escapism look to it. It almost feels like we're watching a video of like a theme park ride in some spots. And I think that's because they lit it hoping that it was going to be released in black and white, and I'm not going to watch this film in black and white to confirm that. I just don't feel like experiencing it again. But even when you watch it in color, the way that they chose to release it, I think it has a unique look to it that adds to kind of that fun, unique vibe that they're going for. Daniel Roebuck as Grandpa is the best casting and the best performance in this movie. I think that he knows exactly the movie that he is in. I think that he really taps into that vibe and taps into that cadence of humor from the original Munsters sitcom. And to me, he, of all of the characters on the screen, was the one that actually was nailing a lot of the humor and was nailing a lot of the intended tone of these characters. So it's a shame that not everybody else matches him, because it could have done a lot to help this movie out. But every scene where he was the focus or where he got the punchline, I at least got a smile or a chuckle. And I think that Rob Zombie's style of directing really does lend itself well to the Munsters. There's certainly aspects to this with the way that he intros the movie and the way that he does transitions, and even some of the things that are like on a black and white TV in the background. He's injecting a lot of his like grindhouse 60s and 70s love in here, and I think that it works well in this movie. Where some others, it kind of feels like it's a bit foreign to the story that he's telling, and it doesn't completely make sense, like in some of his Halloween films. Here, I think it fits perfectly, even if this Munsters is in modern day. And so even though there's a lot of room for improvement with the things that he brought to the Munsters, this, I've always maintained, felt like it should have been a perfect marriage. I mean, when I found out Rob Zombie was doing this, I just envisioned a version of the Munsters with his style that was going to be perfect. And unfortunately, this isn't quite it, but it was still a good pick. It was a good pick to have Rob Zombie direct this movie, at least. And moving on to the negatives, he was the right person to direct this, but he was the wrong person to write this movie. I've given up. I've completely given up on hope that eventually we're going to see that Rob Zombie film that is like the fullest of his potential. I have no faith that we're ever going to see it. And it's unfortunate. Like, Rob Zombie, I feel like, is such a talented director. He has so much potential as a filmmaker, his eye of how to shoot things and his style that he injects. He has so much talent. And in some of his films, it's on display. But he is a fucking horrible writer. And no disrespect when I say that, because I love Rob Zombie to death. I love his music. I love what the dude stands for. He puts on awesome shows, and I love his directing style. But dude, let somebody else write your fucking movies. It kills me. It kills me. I respect the fact that he is so not give a fuck, that he just is going to do whatever he wants to do. He's going to make the movie that he wants, and everybody else is just going to have to deal with it. Whatever, that's fine. Do you. But goddamn, if every single time the masses are telling you the writing is terrible, the writing is the problem, the writing kills it, find somebody that you trust to give some ideas to and to give you a well-crafted script, and then you can let all of your talent shine behind the fucking camera. It just pisses me off that this guy will not let go of the pen to save his life. And I was curious with this being a family-friendly movie, with him having to tailor back his signature dialogue that is just completely profanity-fueled and has that 70s grindhouse porno flavor to it, if we were actually going to finally see some good dialogue, some good script writing out of Rob Zombie. And it's just dull. It is the dullest thing that I have seen all year. It's not the worst thing, not by a landslide, but it is the dullest thing that I have seen all year, to where all of that profanity and all of that grossness and grindhouse flavor, apparently that's all the style that he has to give as far as his dialogue writing, because you take all that away and it is just the most boring, flat, dad joke fueled bullshit that I have seen in a very long time. There's not even really a story in this movie. It's framed to be like a prequel, like an origin for how Herman met Lily, and we don't even have Eddie Munster. We don't even have the cousin that comes in here. Presumably they left that for sequels that we're never getting, I can promise you that. And if you're going to do that, fine, but it just doesn't feel like there's any form of a narrative flow to this movie. There's no like central conflict that we're building towards to solve in the third act. Like, you have Herman that is built and is looking for love. You have Lily that is looking for love. You have Grandpa that just wants her to find somebody rich. And that's kind of the premise for the first couple acts of the film. And there's this subplot going on regarding somebody trying to swindle them into giving up their castle, which will eventually lead to them moving into Mockingbird Lane and moving to the US. But that's not the central conflict of the movie. It's just a subplot, and it's a subplot that solves itself about halfway through the film, and so it just continues on to the U.S. and continues on to Mockingbird Lane and ends on a note to where it's like, but that wasn't like a central conflict of the film. That wasn't like something that we were trying to achieve. Like, you just stopped. It's the weirdest thing. It's framed almost like a pilot episode to where it's like just an introduction and all the story's going to come later, but it's not going to come. And so it's just like random situations. It's Herman Munster playing in a band. It's Lily going on a date with fucking Nosferatu. It's them going on a date in Paris. It's Grandpa trying to build something in the lab. It's just the sequence of little skit moments that are tethered together for an hour and 45 minutes. And I just don't know who this is for, because this is not the style of humor that was in the original sitcom. It's not a style of humor that adults are going to appreciate. It's not a style of humor I imagine many kids are going to get or really buy into or really be interested in this film. So I don't know who the hell this is for. I don't know who the hell he's trying to write and trying to market this to and trying to appeal to.
Greetings from Transylvania.
It doesn't help that aside from Daniel Roebuck, I think the other two characters are miscast. I don't care for Jeff Daniel Phillips' version of Herman Munster. His voice primarily is what doesn't do it for me. I don't know why they didn't alter that somehow, but you have Fred Gwynn's voice that's very, commanding and powerful, and it just adds that flavor of Frankenstein, this imposing figure, and it's iconic. And you have Jeff Daniel Phillips, and he kind of talks like this, and he's got this very high-pitched voice that kind of comes in and out, and it doesn't feel right for Herman Munster. Doesn't help that he gives him dialogue that is just bad. I mean, the whole shtick of him is that he's like this failed comedian, and every single time he does a joke, and ha, 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 and it's the worst dad joke you've heard.
How do you keep a grouchy, old, broken down vampire in suspense? I'll tell you later.
And it feels like a broken record at this point, to where it almost feels like I'm beating up on the woman, and I hate that because I'm sure she's a lovely person, but Sherry Moon Zombie can't act. I love and respect the fact that he puts his wife in every movie, and their relationship is just, it's like couple goals. They're gonna live and die with each other, whether or not everybody likes her acting or not. And all the power to them, that's awesome. But just like with the script writing, it's like, do we have to cast your wife as the lead or almost the lead in every single movie? She had to be Lily Munster because she's the worst performer in this film.
I want a man that makes my blood run cold. A man that every time he enters my crypt, it's like a stake through my dead black heart.
It feels like she's trying to do an impersonation of the original Lily. Like, she's just kind of over the top the way she talks, and everything's got these things with her hands. And it just doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like she's becoming a character. It just feels like she's putting on some kind of a show the entire film. She's got no chemistry with Jeff Daniel Phillips. And so the whole origin story, the greatest love story ever told that they market, it doesn't work because they don't work with each other, because she doesn't work with him and he doesn't work with her. It's just, again, it's the same problems. I feel like I could just put a generic Rob Zombie review out there and just insert the title of the movie and change it up like fucking Mad Libs, because it's just the same issues over and over. Bad script writing, and why do you keep casting the same people that don't have the acting caliber that you need for these characters? There's also other stylistic elements that I don't think translate very well into this. This is obviously a modern day Munsters, and I think that some of Rob Zombie's throwback style works in pieces, in moderation, but there's also segments to where it shows them like driving and everything else around them is animated, but they're real life people in black and white, and it just looks odd and it looks like a really dated effect, and I don't think it makes sense within the movie with everything else being colorful. Again, if it was black and white, and I'm not going to be the one to test whether this movie plays better in black and white, maybe that would play a little bit differently, but there is some other things in there that just feels like music video shit that doesn't add anything to the movie. I just don't understand why Universal gave him the money for this. Like, Rob Zombie seems like the type of guy that is only ever going to make movies for himself, and if there's a couple of 100,000 people that like his films, then cool. If nobody else on planet Earth likes him, fuck it, don't give a shit, this movie's for me. If that's his attitude, fine. And there's a reason why the last 2 films that he's made, he's had to crowdfund so that the actual Rob Zombie fandom pays for the movie that they want to see and nobody else has to do any kind of a funding for it. I just don't understand why Universal funded him to do this, knowing how he works and knowing the type of movie that he was going to make. I had hope that it wasn't going to be that, but if I was somebody that was putting up the money, I would not have gambled with that amount of money to possibly see Rob Zombie do something different, because this just cements the fact that he's never going to change. You either are going to be on board for what he makes, or you're just never going to like anything that he does, because he's not changing. And that's disappointing. It's disappointing that I really want to see him. I think he genuinely has the potential as a director to give one of those horror films especially that I think the masses of horror fans could say this is one of the greatest horror films ever made. But in order to do that, he's going to have to stop casting the same exact people that time and time again let down his movie, and he's going to, for the love of God, let somebody else write his script. And I just don't see that ever happening. So I will go out on a limb right now and tell you that this movie is going to fail critically. It's going to fail with fans of the Munsters and with a lot of Rob Zombie fans, because this isn't the typical nasty, profanity-fueled blood and guts extravaganza that they like him for. And it's definitely going to fail financially, which was the writing on the wall when they gave this to Netflix, even though it's a Universal movie and it's coming day and date the same day. Like, all the writing on the wall, this is going to fail financially. This is the last studio-backed film that Rob Zombie will ever make. And he's caused that himself, honestly. And it sucks, because like I really champion the guy. I really wish that one day I will turn on this camera and say, guys, he's done it. This is the one. This is the fucking Rob Zombie movie I have been waiting for. And I thought that the Munsters was either going to be it or a sign that it was coming. And all this did was tell me that I am never going to get that film out of this man. So all in all, guys, if you are a hardcore fan of the original Munsters, maybe take a peek at this. If the trailer interested you, then the movie probably will interest you. For everybody else that thought the trailer looked ferociously bad, the movie is exactly what the trailer shows you. So save your money, watch it on Netflix, or just skip it altogether if you know better. But this is this is a goddamn shame. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for the rest of my 2022 movie reviews. And I'm also going to put my playlist up here of other Rob Zombie movie reviews as well. And I hopefully will get a chance in the next week or so to do a Rob Zombie ranking, but it's getting busy around here, so I'm not going to promise it. Please like and share this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.